Hello everyone, in this video I will be assembling this MST CMX 1/10 scale crawler. This will be an in-depth build video showing all the steps from start to finish, but I have sped up sections and edited out redundant steps to shorten the total length of this video. This video is just going to focus on assembling the CMX kit and installing all of the electronics. In a future video I will build and mount the body, take it crawling, and share my thoughts on this vehicle. If you decide to build one of these kits along with me, please remember this video is not an alternative to the manual that's included with your kit. Always read the manual prior to each step whenever building any RC vehicle, and please be careful when using knives and other sharp tools to avoid injury. But with that out of the way, I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer it. So let's start by going over all the electronics. The first being a JX Servo PDI 6213, which is an inexpensive Metal Gear digital servo. I've used JX servos on several builds and have found them to be a good option if you're on a tight budget. For the motor, I'm just using a basic 35-turn brushed motor from RC 4-wheel drive. I'm using an ESC that's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I don't know anything about the manufacturer or how well this will hold up, but apparently it's rated at 35 amps sustained current and it's waterproof. The battery is a 2-cell 5200 mAh Flareon LiPo, which should give this vehicle a fairly long runtime. Last is the receiver, which is a Radiolink R4EH-H, which is compatible with Radiolink RC3S and RC4G transmitters. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take a look at what's in the box. On top they have included a nice poster, as well as a towel with the MST logo on it. Although the towel is pretty low quality, it's still a nice addition to the kit. You also get a catalog that shows all of the crawlers made by MST, as well as optional upgrade parts and accessories. Underneath that are the manuals and decals. Next are the wheels and foam inserts. The tires. And 2 parts bags with smaller individually numbered bags inside. On the bottom of the box are the frame rails and parts bag number 15, which includes parts you will need if you are building the 267mm wheelbase version of this kit. First thing I wanted to do was look at the instructions and remove all the small parts bags from the 2 large bags. Both the instructions and the parts for this kit were great. The instructions were very clear and easy to follow. There were a couple diagrams I thought could be a little more clear, but it was still very easy to figure out. All the parts were great. Everything went together perfectly, nothing needed any sanding or trimming to get it to fit, no missing hardware or any other issues. I think this kit would be a good option for a beginner. It's simple, easy to assemble, and pretty affordable. I was able to purchase this kit for around $180 US, so this is probably one of the most affordable 1/10 scale crawler kits on the market. MST does sell a CMX kit that includes a motor, ESC, and optional body, and they sell a ready-to-run version as well. One thing to keep in mind though is that the CMX is smaller than other 10th scale crawlers. I will talk more about the size difference in the next video. The first step is to assemble all of the suspension links. All of the parts for this step are in bag 1. After cutting the parts off the tree, I used a pair of sharp side cutters to cut away the excess plastic. After all the parts were removed from the tree, I pressed all of the ball connectors into their sockets. I used a little bit of grease not included with the kit. After all of the ball connectors were installed, I started assembling the links. This step is pretty straightforward, just make sure you are making the links the correct length for the wheelbase that you want your crawler to be. I am building the 242mm wheelbase version of this kit. Next steps are to assemble the servo link and steering link assemblies. Make sure you line up both ends correctly as shown and you have the correct gap, which is 4mm for the servo link and 5mm for the steering link. So now it's time to assemble the frame. All the parts for the frame are in bag 2, except for the chassis rails, which are in their own separate bag. If you are building one of these kits, be aware that some of the parts in bag 2 will not be used until later steps, so be sure you keep track of those parts. Not a whole lot to say about this step, just make sure everything matches up with the diagram in the manual. Also make sure your upper shock mounts are oriented correctly and don't over tighten the screws that are threading into plastic. That concludes the assembly of the frame. The finished frame is solid and relatively lightweight, ready for all the other components to be mounted to it. Once the frame is complete, the next step is to mount the 8 upper and lower suspension links to the frame. Very simple step, but make sure you are putting each link in the correct location. Next is the transmission, which uses parts from bags 3, 4, and 14. One negative thing about this kit is that it uses bushings instead of bearings, which is typical for less expensive kits like this, but it still would be nice to see bearings included, but they do sell a bearing kit separately. Before I went any further, I wanted to apply some of the included black grease to all the gears. Do keep in mind that you will also use this grease for the gears in both axles, so make sure you are saving enough of it to do so. However, they give you a generous amount of it, so I don't think running out would be a problem. You certainly don't need to be as precise at applying it as I am here. I just like to apply it evenly around all the gears. The transmission is nearly complete. All that's left to do is install the motor and dust cover. This kit does not include a pinion gear, so you will need to provide your own 48-pitch pinion gear. I'm using a 17-tooth pinion, which I think might be the smallest you are able to use on this vehicle. And that is the completed transmission assembly, ready to be mounted to the frame. Mounting the transmission is very simple, just 4 bolts up through the bottom of the transmission mount. Next is assembling the front axle, which uses parts from bags 1, 2, 5, and 6. This is another diagram I thought could use a little improvement. You just have to pay attention to the order that the parts are installed and study the image of the completed assembly. Here's a look at the finished assembly. Now I can install it into the axle housing. Once everything is inside and the gears have been greased, the other half of the axle housing can be installed. Next step is to attach the C-hub carriers to each end of the axle. The wheel axles are secured to the CVA axles by two 2x9.8mm pins, which are locked in using G-clips. Here I accidentally installed the steering knuckles backwards at first, so I had to remove them and reattach them facing the right direction. Another minor mistake I made here was that I forgot to install the servo link to the servo horn. Instead, I mounted the servo horn to the servo, and then a little later on mounted the link to the servo horn. It was harder to do it that way, but I was still able to get it on. And here's the front axle, ready to be attached to the links. Next component to assemble is the rear axle, which is basically the same as the front axle, except there are no steering parts. And that's all it takes to assemble the rear axle. Now the drive shafts need to be attached to both axles and to the transmission. With the drive shafts mounted, it's time to bolt the axles to the forelinks. Make sure you line both sides of the drive shafts up correctly. Next step is to build the shocks. MST includes 3 different spring sets and spacers in different thicknesses to adjust the ride height and suspension stiffness. I went with medium shocks and did not use any spacers. After building all 4 shocks, I mounted them to the chassis and the axles. Next, I installed the battery mount, receiver box, ESC, and front bumper. Before I went any further, I wanted to do a quick test to make sure everything was working. Getting the gasket that goes between the battery mount and receiver box to stay in place was a bit tricky, but after working with it, the 2 pieces did eventually fit together tight. Now it's time to mount the tires onto the wheels. Usually you'd use glue to help hold the tire on, but I didn't because I plan on changing out the foam inserts in the near future. And finally, it's time to mount the wheels to the axles. I went ahead and secured the ESC with some double-sided tape and used some zip ties to organize the wires and keep them from rubbing against moving parts. Once everything was tidied up, I went ahead and turned it on and made sure everything worked. As you can see, the crawler drives and steers as it should, and it looks like everything is working. But that concludes this video. In a future video, I will be building the body and mounting it to this chassis, as well as taking this crawler out and doing some driving. Thank you for watching and making it all the way to the end. I'm not sure how many more long videos like this I'm going to make in the future. The editing for this video really tired me out. So unless the majority of you watching prefer longer videos like this, I think I'm going to stick to shorter but more frequent uploads in the future. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you click the like button, share this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'm making it a point to upload at least once a week and really making an effort to grow this channel and create the best content I can. Plus, I've got some cool projects coming up soon and I think you will enjoy it. So be on the lookout for that. But with that said, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you next time.